Your man, Louie T. Welcome to the Draft Prospects 101 series, your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names of the 2024 NFL Draft. We're talking quarterbacks. And we're talking about the guy that is going to go number one overall. I am convinced. And I don't think there's anything that anybody can say or do to convince me otherwise. Whether the Bears stay at one, which I think ultimately is going to take place, or they trade out of the pick altogether, somebody's drafting USC quarterback Caleb Williams, number one overall. So the question isn't, where is this guy going to land? The question is, what makes him the clear favorite? Without any equivocations, the clear number one, not only prospect, but quarterback in this year's draft class, or rather, not only the quarterback, but number one overall prospect in this year's draft class. So I've done videos on Caleb Williams that have documented, who he is and some of the things that you may have to deal with Caleb Williams. What you cannot deny is the talent, however. We could sit here and we can have conversations about this or that, or him painting his nails or crying in the stands to his mom. All of that stuff is noise at this point. When we talk about the skill set and the talent that this kid possesses, it's second to none in this draft. And that's why he's going to find himself hearing his name called first in the 2024 NFL Draft. But we're going to talk about the things that I saw on tape and why I feel like it's a no-brainer, slam dunk, that whomever's drafting number one overall is drafting Caleb Williams. So let's get into his 2024 NFL Draft Prospects 101 breakdown. Let's take a look at Caleb Williams and all that he brings to the table. So size at 6'1", 215. That's highly debatable, right? We're going to find out at the combine if this guy actually cracks 6'1" or not. I think when he is measured, he'll be south of 6'1". Now, I don't expect him to measure in at 5'11" and, 5'8" or anything crazy like that. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's 6 foot and 3/8 or something like that. Whatever the case may be. He's got a stocky build, right? So much like guys of that frame, do generally have. He's a tremendous athlete and a world of God-given talent, right? Just ridiculous amounts of talent this guy possesses. So 3-year starter going back to his freshman year at Oklahoma. So this is a guy that has 33 career starts under his belt in 37 games. You talk about him bursting onto the scene, really putting himself on the college football map in one of the biggest games of the season for the Oklahoma Sooners at the time, which is where he was with Lincoln Riley in that rivalry game against Texas, and him coming in and doing what he ultimately did and bringing them back in dramatic fashion, set the stage for him to turn into the superstar and somewhat polarizing figure that he's become. But won the Heisman Trophy in 2022. And that's where we're going to start with some of his statistics as he transferred over to USC with Lincoln Riley in 22. 14 games, 500 passing attempts, 66.6 completion percentage, 4,500 yards passing, 4,537 to be exact, 9.1 yards per attempt, 42 touchdowns, 5 INTs. So you're talking about an 8-to-1 ratio, touchdown to interception, which is outstanding at any level. And 11-3, and just missed out on the college football playoffs after losing in the Pac-12 championship to Utah. That's what ultimately happened. Again, the 11-3 mark and all the numbers that I just read. Then you throw in the rushing totals, 113 rushing attempts, 382 yards, 10 touchdowns to go along with the 42 he tossed through the air, gives him 52 that he accounted for in 2022. Only 3 fumbles lost in 2022, or 3 fumbles rather. One of them lost. So massive year in 2022. That landed him the Heisman Trophy. And so a lot was expected of him in 2023, including making the college football playoffs. It was a disappointing year for USC as a whole, not just Caleb Williams, but Williams himself played very well, right? But the team overall did not. And they lost a lot of talent. They did not have true difference makers at receiver. And it forced him to have to carry the team essentially on his back. He did the best he could, but it was to no avail. They go 7-5 that season, but again, not because of Caleb Williams. 12 games he started in 2023, 388 passing attempts for a 68.6% completion percentage. So the amount of attempts come down, but the percentage that he completes goes up. So you like to see that. Yards came down dramatically, almost 1,000 yards less than his Heisman Trophy campaign, 3,633 yards in 2023. But the yards per attempt went up, 9.4 yards, the highest of his career, even going back to his Oklahoma days. 30 touchdowns is much less, 12 less than the 42 he tossed the year prior. And the 5 interceptions match the 5 that he threw in his Heisman Trophy campaign. So 99 rushes, 121 yards, and 11 touchdowns. So the yards aren't there. Some of that is because of the sack totals. And as I told you before in other videos, in college football, they subtract your sack yardage from your rushing yards. So Caleb Williams is one of those dudes that will run backwards 17 yards. And if you catch him, it's a 17-yard loss. And so you get enough of those, and it's going to eat away at your rush yards. He's not a massive runner, though, but he can run when he needs to. So, and the 11 touchdowns kind of bear that out that he had in 2023. Now, this number is a bit alarming. 8 fumbles this year at SC. He lost 3 now, so didn't lose as many, but still, putting it on the ground that many times is very uncomfortable. Now, I watched some of the games, saw some of the fumbles, and, you know, a lot of the fumbles, when they happen, are attributed to the quarterback, even if it's not his fault. One was a poor snap that he had to dive on, right? That's going to be charged to his account. So you have to be careful with that sometimes, but I also saw him be somewhat loosey-goosey with the ball. He always carries the ball like a loaf of bread, even when defenders are around. So that's definitely a concern moving forward, though. So let's get to his pros and talk about what he brings to the table as the future number 1 overall pick in the upcoming draft. You start with his strengths and his pros. Athleticism. All right, this is a guy, tremendous athlete, as I mentioned, can get to anywhere on the field, can run by you, can make you miss. Again, he's not a dynamic runner, but he can be if he has to be. Okay, if the opportunity presents itself, he'll take off and run and look to get big yards. But he's a smart enough guy too that he doesn't put himself in harm's way very often. He slides and won't hesitate to slide. He'll run out of bounds. He'll make a beeline for out of bounds if he has to. So he protects himself very well, but he's got the athleticism. You see it on 4th down and 1s a lot of times in this Lincoln Riley offense where they spread you out and then they go with a read option and he keeps it and races to the 1st down marker, right? So really good athlete. His next pro is BTAC, as I call it, big time arm talent. He can go just about blow for blow with anybody from an arm talent perspective in this year's draft class. I think him and Drake May are the 2 big armed quarterbacks in this year's group. And he can sling it with the best of them. His arm talent is definitely something you don't question. Quick operation. I love his ability to set up shop quick. You know, they run a lot of RPOs, and he'll keep that thing in there for a very long time and then snap, boom, and then he's ready to throw, right? Ball's out, right? It's so quick. It's so rapid. And it doesn't give you a lot of time to react. Is he going to hand it off? Is he going to throw it? And by the time you make a decision, he's already got the ball out. his operation is quick. He stays in a ready posture a lot of the time. His feet are spread, ready to go. And it doesn't take much. His hips snap, and that torque generates a ton of velocity when he needs it to. There are some throws where you just go, wow, right? Off platform, off one leg, and he snaps it, right? And it's all because he has such a quick operation, if you ask me. Getting in and out of trouble, resetting his feet, and throwing it wherever he needs it to go. The next pro can be accurate at all three levels. There are some games where you watch him and it's like a masterclass that he's putting on. And he's shredding you at every level, short, intermediate, and deep. And that's why he's going to be the number one overall pick, is he can do it all. It's just about consistency and continuing to grow and mature into the talents that he's been provided with, but he can do it all. Excellent ball placement. There's a throw in 2022 against Arizona. It ended up being incomplete, but I just marveled at where that ball was placed. And there are a couple of throws in that Arizona game where you just go, wow, in the red zone, tight quarters, back of the end zone, up high where nobody else but his receiver can get it, but it still gives his receiver a chance to get his feet down in bounds. There's another throw where it's literally in the only spot where his guy can catch it. Now, he ultimately doesn't secure the ball down to the ground and secure the catch. But when you talk about ball placement, there are times where you just go, you couldn't have run up and handed it to the receiver any better than where he just put that football. Feathery, soft touch and changes arm slots. He can throw it. He's got that kind of Matthew Stafford, Patrick Mahomes-esque quality to his game where he'll drop it down 3/4 sidearm to get it around a defender. A lot of times when they do those quick tunnel screens, that's what he does, right? He drops it down 3/4 to get it around the unblocked defender that's screaming into the backfield. But the thing I love about him is the feathery soft touch. There are so many balls that he layers over defenders, and it's just like it's drugstore cotton soft. I mean, there are some throws you go, oh man, that's nice. Almost like you're laying down on a pillow, and it's like it's such a comfortable feeling. You're like, oh, that feels good. That's how some of these throws look. And the beauty of what he brings to the table is if he needs to put velocity on it, needs to throw it at, 99 miles an hour, he can. But if he needs to take some off and throw a changeup and throw it at 69 miles an hour, he can do that too. If he needs to put a little layer on it, a little air, just to get it over, a linebacker, he can do that. You see that when he's throwing over the middle of the field to the tight ends on these seam balls, and he's putting just the right amount of air on it, just the right amount of touch, so that it's in the perfect location so his guy can run with the football after the catch. You love to see it, right? Accuracy on the move, that plays largely into the next pro that we're going to talk about. So I'll just couple them together. Play extension wizardry. And in my notes, when he makes a wow play that it's hard for me to describe, you know how we talk about Mahomes magic? I call it Williams wizardry. And his play extension wizardry is what I think is his best superpower to this point. You hear a lot of the comparisons to Patrick Mahomes, and it's because of his ability to extend plays and make things happen when the play breaks down. The running backwards, the seemingly running into a disaster only to come out of it unscathed. As a matter of fact, making a big play. There's so many plays, countless plays where you go, this is going to end badly. And then somehow he turns it into a masterpiece. And you can't teach that. Either you have it or you don't. And I talked about, with some of the other quarterbacks, mainly Drake May, and his willingness to put the ball in tight spaces and quarters that others wouldn't even dare to try to attempt, and how that's a gift, but it's also a curse. Same thing can be said for Caleb Williams' superpower. His extension of the play is magnificent, but it's also something that he has to temper a bit at the next level, and we'll talk about that. So his play extension wizardry is ridiculous. It's second to none. We haven't seen anything like it since Patrick Mahomes came into the league. Experience is his next pro. The 33 starts, more than enough. That's 3 years worth of starting experience for him. Started as a true freshman after the first 4 games of his true freshman season for the Oklahoma Sooners and never looked back. And so any talk of did he get enough snaps under center or as a quarterback in college, not an issue. Heisman Trophy winner, again, goes without saying, won the trophy in 2022. So the last 2 Heisman Trophy winners are, coincidentally enough, in this draft. And this year's winner in Jaden Daniels and last year's winner in Caleb Williams. And they could go 1 and 2 in this draft. We'll see how things shake out. But again, they don't just hand this trophy to anybody. You've got to put in a tremendous season. And he did that in 2022. And his talents suggest that that's something that he can replicate in the future. So we move on to his cons. And look, you can get nitpicky when you're talking about a guy like Caleb Williams with the kind of skill set that he possesses. But these are real cons. These are real things. These aren't made up things that you say to knock him down a peg because you don't want to give him a 5 on his eval sheet. These are real things that he needs to clean up at the next level, right? So the first thing is something that he can't control, and I don't really put a lot of stock into, is his height. Whether he ends up being 6 feet tall or he actually checks in at 6'1", doesn't matter. No one cares at this point. It is what it is. Okay. But you did see some balls batted at the line of scrimmage because of his size, and he does have to find ways sometimes to throw into little windows, and sometimes he'll have the pocket be a little bit further back to give him a clearer picture of what's going on in front of him. So the height does matter at times, but again, we don't make a big deal out of it like we used to once upon a time. Can suffer from pocket narcolepsy. Now, this is something that I think he really needs to clean up. He'll fall asleep in the pocket sometimes, where he just gets really comfortable, kind of gets lulled to sleep, falls into this trance, and he's just standing there. And guys will run the entire arc, come back around and knock the ball out of his hands. I saw it happen to him in a couple of games where I'm like, Caleb, snap out of it. Get out of there. What are you doing? You can't stand in the pocket for 4 seconds. What do you think? People aren't coming? And so he suffers from pocket narcolepsy sometimes. At any moment, notice he'll fall asleep back there. He'll get locked on to his first read. And, that guy's working a deeper route or a concept that's a double move. And he'll fall asleep waiting for that guy to get open. And next thing you know, he's fumbled the football. Somebody's hit him from behind. He doesn't know. Ball's out. Right? So that's something he's got to clean up. Will overextend plays. And when we talk about his ability to be a playmaker off script when things break down and the wizardry that I just referenced, there is a give or take with that. And there is a such thing as, doing too much. When is enough, right? When is too much? There's a fine line and a balance that you have to walk when you're a quarterback. Sometimes the defense just wins the rep. And you got to be able to say, you know what? I'll get them next time. Guys like Caleb Williams, it's hard for them to concede when a play is over. And sometimes it works to his benefit and he makes some sort of jaw-dropping play. And other times he puts the ball in harm's way, like against Notre Dame, and it turns out to backfire against him, right? So there is a such thing as overextending plays. You take bad sacks sometimes when you do that. He'll learn, he'll grow. I think he'll be a little bit more aware of when the situation calls for him to be Superman and when he just needs to be Clark Kent. But that's something he struggles with right now. And then lastly, This is his kryptonite. This is his biggest deficiency. It's highlighted in red. Playing within the framework of an offense. He constantly is big play hunting. He gets out his rifle and he's looking to make something happen on every single snap. He wants every play to be a 76 or a 66 or a 56 or a 46-yard touchdown. And sometimes plays are drawn up to get 8 yards. And you got to be okay with the 8-yard gain. And I've watched him turn down the 8-yard gain because a guy breaks open down the field on a second, chance play. And instead of him taking the easy underneath 8-yard gain, he then redirects his attention up the right sideline and tries to hit the receiver, and it's incomplete. And now you put yourself in 3rd and 10 instead of either picking up the first down or getting to a 3rd and 2, right? So sometimes it can be to a detriment. Like there are times where he turns that down and goes to the big play and it works out for him, but he's got to learn how to work in the timing and rhythm of a play. Go through his progressions. Sometimes he locks on to early reads, doesn't come off of them. Sometimes he struggles when, because a lot of what they did in that offensive attack was getting it out of his hands quickly. A lot of quick screens, a lot of swings out of the backfield, a lot of guys coming across the formation and him hitting them in the flats, things of that nature. A lot of RPOs where the decision is very easy and clear for him. But when it's not, sometimes he gets stuck. And I talked about him having pocket narcolepsy. And you see that with him needing to go through his progressions, maybe get to a check down, maybe get to a 3rd read, and he just doesn't. And then he takes off or he extends, and he makes the play harder than it needs to be. All for him to run for 2 yards when he could have just dumped it to the running back and gotten 6, right? All for him to run, 25 yards for him to chuck it out of bounds after running around in a circle, running backwards, then running out of real estate towards the left sideline and then having to throw it away. He could have gotten a 3-yard gain instead of nothing and running for 25 yards for no reason, right? So there's a lot of that you see with Caleb Williams. And again, that kind of stuff leads to sacks too. Sometimes you're trying to bite off more than you can chew. You're doing too much. And he's got to learn to take the check down sometimes. He's got to learn to take what's there in front of him. And that'll come, right? That'll come as time happens. And that's why that's why he's separated himself from the rest, because the one thing that we're talking about as his biggest fault right now is something that I think over time will correct itself. He'll learn over time that I have to be patient. Patrick Mahomes had to learn to be patient. He came into the league slinging bombs down the field, left and right. And then teams started playing too high shells against him and taking away the deep ball. And he struggled for a little while because he had to adapt and adjust. Caleb Williams is going to have to go through that, maybe. And then once he does and he adjusts, he'll be fine. But those are his cons as we go to his comp. And I've been talking about Mahomes this entire time. This is low-hanging fruit. I don't care because this is the closest we've gotten to Patrick Mahomes since he's come into the league. And Caleb Williams is a guy that can do a lot of the things that Patrick Mahomes can do. Mahomes is bigger. Mahomes has proven himself in this league. 3-time Super Bowl winning quarterback. Caleb Williams has not, obviously, but he'll have an opportunity to do that for whatever team drafts him. Right now, I feel like it's going to be the Bears. But if he doesn't reach his maximum potential, which is Patrick Mahomes. And we can't say that he'll be Patrick Mahomes if he reaches his full potential, but he'll be Mahomes-esque. If he reaches that potential, then he'll be somewhere in that neighborhood. Don't know if he'll actually end up being a guy like Mahomes where you just expect the worst when Mahomes is under center. You just expect with him having the football late, you're going to lose. I don't know if Caleb Williams will morph into that type of quarterback or not. But if he shouldn't reach his full potential, this is who he turns into. This is his floor, I think. Kyler Murray, right? Played in the same exact offense that Williams did, so you can see a lot of the same attributes. Williams is, a little bit bigger, but not much. Murray's, he's sub 6 feet. Caleb Williams is not that much taller than 6 feet. So there's a lot of similarities there. They're both good athletes. Obviously, Murray's a lot faster, right? But they're similar in their play styles, similar in arm talent, similar in the things that they're capable of doing. And again, Murray to me hasn't hit his ceiling. I don't know if he ever will. We'll see. But he's still a damn good starting quarterback, is Kyler Murray. And that's the floor for Caleb Williams. Even if he doesn't become what we think he can ultimately be, his floor is still a damn good NFL quarterback. So that to me is Caleb Williams in a nutshell. And that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Draft Prospects 101 series. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys the next time when we come back and talk about the next wave, the next tier of quarterbacks in this upcoming draft class. There are several guys that may potentially hear their names in the same first round as the 3 quarterbacks we've already knocked down. So we'll get to those quarterbacks in the next wave of videos. But until then, you guys take care. Have a good one.